Quick note before we start. This video walks through JobTread's legacy selections experience, available to customers who joined prior to February 2026. JobTread now offers a new and improved selections experience with a streamlined photo-centered design. If you'd like to learn more about the updated version, you can find the link to the new tutorial in the description below. Write-in selections are available for you to offer your customer an open-ended text box that they can enter their own selection information into, which allows your customer to go source the items on their own or with their own designer. Let's check out how to create write-in selections in JobTread. When you're in a job, you can create write-in selections and send them to your customers from two different places. One is within the budget and the other is within the selections tab. Let's check out both, but we'll start with the budget. When we're in our job budget, we can add in individual items which would serve as write-in items. So let's start by adding in a new item and we'll click plus item. In this case, we're going to do a kitchen island light fixture. Okay, maybe we want them to go out and source that themselves. So we'll click create new cost item. And now the best thing to do at this point is to click the three dots on the item level and then open up the details for that item. So we'll choose show details. Here we can enter in the description. Now this description box becomes the text box that your customer can write into. So you can pre-fill this box with some information to kind of guide them in the right direction. So let's go ahead and add in, please enter the details of your chosen light fixture below. All right, here's where I can add in some additional prompts to get the right information from them. So I could say item name, item SKU, maybe I want the item color / finish, and then of course that item URL. Okay. Now we're going to pre-fill in a lot of the item details here as well. So we'll add the cost code. In this case, it will be electrical, and then the type will be materials. The quantity, I don't want them to pick more than one, so I'm going to add one here, but you can choose to leave that open if you want them to define the quantity. We also can skip the cost and price because we're not quite sure what they're going to choose yet. So the most important thing when you're creating a write-in item is to convert this item to a write-in item. Currently, it's just a standard cost item in our budget, but when we scroll down on the item details, you'll see the option to allow a customer write-in. Let's toggle that on. You're also going to see a secondary toggle that's already turned on called Cost Depends on Customer Input. What this means is that we don't know what item they're going to choose yet, so we don't know the cost yet. So that safely makes the cost and price TBD until we know that information. However, if you already know the cost of the item, let's say that you're allowing them to choose a color of a specific light, but you're offering them a certain light already, then you can turn this off and enter in the cost of that light, but they still will have that open text box to then add in the details that you're looking for. In most cases though, we're going to leave this on, meaning we don't know what they're going to choose yet, so therefore everything can be TBD until we do. All right, let's go ahead and close this. And now you'll notice that we have a cost item with a little write-in icon, which indicates that it is indeed a write-in item, so that's perfect. All right, so I'm going to save my changes and let's add this to a contract or a selection document. Now, your selections process really depends on your own workflows, so there are various workflows that could include write-in items. I encourage you to check out the videos and help desk articles on the pre-contract selections, during contract selections, and post-contract selections with allowances to truly see how write-ins work within your broad workflow. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and add this to our main contract as if we were doing during contract selections here. So let's go ahead and create a new document. And we're going to choose our customer order type, and it will be our proposal template. Okay, now I want to include all of my base package on there as well as this write-in item, and we will click create. Now you'll see that I have my base package listed. I also have my kitchen island light fixture, and it has a fillable text box as well as a place for your customer to upload any files, photos, or videos about this item for you. Okay. So let's send this out to our customer. Now we'll click send and we're going to send it off to Peyton. So that works for me. And now we will go into the document as if we are Peyton here, and she is going to review the base package. All right, that looks good. And then she sees that you're prompting her for a kitchen island light fixture. So maybe Peyton goes out and shops for her light fixture. So she's going to enter in the name, pennant light, great, and the SKU number. And then also she's going to enter in her color or finish, and maybe she likes the bronze one. And then she can also add the URL, www.something.com. And then also Peyton could upload any files, photos, and videos to this item. So maybe she's at a store and she takes a picture of the item. That works great. All right, now down at the bottom, you'll see that Peyton has the option to submit her selections. Now, we originally wanted a signature from her. However, Peyton will not be able to ever sign for a document that doesn't have a complete total at the bottom. You'll see we have a TBD for that kitchen island light fixture, so it's really not a legally binding contract until we have a total price for her, and we won't have that yet until we inform this document again. So when you're using write-in selections, it becomes a back and forth process between you and your customer. So now that Peyton added in her details for that light, she can submit this to you. All right. Now you'll receive a notification saying that it's your turn to take the next step. Currently, this proposal is still pending, and you can pop in here and review and say, okay, this is the light that she wants. Great. You'll then contact your suppliers and source that light fixture. And then you can click on the TBD, and here you can enter in the total cost. So maybe your supplier said that this light was going to be $850. So you're going to type in $850 as your cost for that item. And then you'll notice that because of my default margin, that has made the price for our customer $1214. Great. So I'll close that. And now we have $1214 listed right here on the document, and we will save our changes. Now we're ready to send this back to our customer to get their final signature. So as you'll notice in the recipient section next to Peyton, there is a little paper airplane icon that allows you to resend this document. So when we click that, we might want to switch out our email message and say that the proposal is ready for your final signature. Great, and click send. All right, so now we have Peyton popping back in here, and she's going to review and say, oh, okay, it's $1214, that works for me. And she will then go to the bottom, and now there is a signature line for Peyton because we have a complete price on this document. So Peyton can sign away and click approve. Congratulations, we now have an approved proposal from Peyton, and you'll notice that we have the total item listed, and we can then push it to our budget and move forward accordingly. Now let's take a look at the other option for creating write-in selections. So we're going to head into our selections tab, and you will notice that any document that includes a selection of any sort will be included in the selections tab. So here we have our selected light fixture here. But maybe we want to create several selection documents to collect selection information from our customer on multiple categories or individual selections themselves. So we can click plus selection document, and now we can add in our selection in the same way, but it's just from a different perspective. So initially, as you remember, we added our write-in selection from our budget. Well, then we put it on a document. This is a very similar concept, but what we're doing is we're adding it to the document first, and then it'll be added to the budget. So we are coming at it from a very different angle, but we're going to end up with the same result. So let's go ahead and build out a selection document here. So I'm going to call this my cabinet hardware selection. Perfect. And I will then add a new item, plus item, and we'll do it from scratch. Okay, now I can name this item. So we'll say cabinet hardware. Awesome. And I can add my description. So please choose the cabinet pulls that you would like. All right, and again, I really like to prompt in here exactly what information I'm looking for. So we will say the pull name, and pull color / finish, and then the pull SKU and the pull URL. All right, And now we can enter in our code. This should be, it'll actually be cabinets. Here we go. And then type is going to be materials. And we could enter a quantity. Maybe we know how many cabinet pulls that they're going to need. So we will say 32, and then we will say each. Perfect. Now we don't know the cost and price quite yet, so we need to make this a write-in item. So we'll scroll down and choose allows customer write-in. And then the cost will depend on the customer input because we don't know what they're going to choose yet. So let's turn this on. There we go. Now you'll notice that we have a cost and price of TBD, so we can move forward. All right. That looks good to me. I also can choose to give this document a due date, and we'll say that we need them to choose their cabinet hardware by the 25th of the month. Awesome, and we'll click Create. Now you'll see that we have cabinet hardware selection. Now we might want to send this off to the customers, so we'll click Send, and we do want to require a signature, but remember it will enter into the back and forth experience with that customer, so we'll hit Send. And now your customer has the option to go out and shop for that item. Well, let's say that we are viewing this as our customer. So we're going to enter in the item details. So we're going to enter the pull name. And in this case, we will say that they are knobs of some sort. The finish, again, they like the bronze. And then the SKU, they'll enter in that number. And then the URL, www.somethingelse.com. All right. Now, of course, they can upload any files, photos, and video here, but remember, they're not able to sign for this document yet because there's a TBD. We don't know the full price of this item. So we will then, as Peyton, submit her choices. Okay, now remember that document will still be in a pending status. You'll be notified to pop in here and to enter in your details. So we'll click on the TBD and we will then contact our supplier, source that hardware, and then we'll enter in the cost per pull. So in this case, we'll say that it is $4.50 per pull, and then that brings us to our extended price, taking into account our profit margin for our customer. Close that out. Remember, that's still a pending document, but we are ready to send this off to our customer once again. So we will click this send option. Great. And we will say, we are ready for your final review. Wonderful. Click send. And now you'll see that they can come on in here, review what you've listed, and sign away. Okay, great. Now we have our approved write-in selection, which then is rolled up into this selection document. Now you could always add in additional selection documents here, and I like adding them to the selections tab because then I can organize them in the way that I want to. So you could create an entire selection document and label it just for all kitchen selections. Now you can add in multiple write-in items for all of the choices that your customer is going to make for the kitchen. And then you could have a separate selection document for each room in the house with all of their write-in selections for each room. Now, if you'd like to dive into this even further, I encourage you to watch the other selection videos to determine your selection workflow, whether you're doing pre-contract selections, during contract selections, or post-contract selections with allowances. If you have any other questions, please contact your success manager or email support@jobtread.com.